Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say.
When the cost of enjoying your favorite sport keeps rising, at what point does loyalty turn into frustration? The UFC, once the undisputed king of combat sports, is now facing mounting anger from both fans and fighters over Dana White's controversial price hikes. Dana White, the face of the UFC, has long been known for his bold decisions and brash personality. However, recent decisions about ticket and pay-per-view prices have sparked outrage within the MMA community. White has come under fire for consistently increasing the cost of UFC events, including pay-per-view charges that have soared to nearly $80 per event. Fans, fighters, and even some media personalities are asking, where is this money going, and why are they paying the price for what many feel is a growing disconnect between the sport and its supporters? The price hikes began to attract attention a few years ago, but things took a dramatic turn in 2023 when UFC announced the prices for major pay-per-view events like UFC 300 hit new highs. For a sport already struggling with access for average fans, this change feels like a slap in the face. When UFC 300 was confirmed to be priced at $79.99 per event, it didn't sit well with many loyal fans. Why? Because despite these huge price tags, the quality of the event has remained relatively stagnant, with some fans even arguing that certain UFC cards have failed to live up to expectations. But what exactly is driving these constant increases in prices? Is it the UFC's expansion, or is it just another cash grab by a multi-billion-dollar company? Dana White has publicly stated that the UFC's growing partnership with Endeavor, the global entertainment giant, has allowed the UFC to bring in more revenue, but this is translated into higher prices for fans rather than improvement in the overall product. While the UFC's revenues have ballooned, with White reporting massive deals with broadcasters, this hasn't been reflected in fighter pay or ticket affordability. For a sport that prides itself on grit, determination, and the underdog, it seems like it's beginning to alienate its core supporters. Fighters, too, have expressed frustration. They're constantly in the spotlight, fighting for their livelihoods, and yet they feel left behind in this new era of UFC economics. Many fighters have openly criticized Dana White for the disparity between the pay-per-view revenue and the amount they actually receive. Fighters like Francis Ngannou have voiced their anger even before their departures from the UFC, claiming that the company has been unfair in compensating them for the enormous amount of revenue they generate. UFC's revenue per event can be massive, yet many fighters still struggle with financial security. So where is all the money going? Many believe it's lining Dana White's pockets and enriching the UFC's higher-ups. But it's not just fighters who are upset. The UFC's pricing structure has also alienated fans. For years, fans have been the ones packing out arenas and tuning in from around the world to watch UFC events. They're the ones who create the atmosphere that makes UFC events so electric, yet now it seems they're being forced to pay an increasing amount just to watch. Fans have grown tired of shelling out $79.99 or more for a single event, especially when they feel that the overall product is not delivering value. A pay-per-view card is no longer just a big night in combat sports, but an expensive endeavor that doesn't always deliver. So what is driving Dana White's decision to hike prices continuously? It seems to come down to one thing: money. The UFC is becoming more of a mainstream entertainment giant, and with that comes increased demand. But the average fan is feeling neglected, especially as ticket prices for live events continue to rise. And while the price hikes are frustrating for fans, there's another issue at play here: streaming. While many fans had hoped that the UFC's partnership with ESPN Plus would make it easier to watch fights, that has been anything but the case. ESPN Plus has been criticized for its complex pricing structure, where subscribers must pay for both a monthly subscription and a separate pay-per-view charge for UFC events. For fans who just want to watch a fight, this has led to a cumbersome and frustrating experience. In fact, many fans have turned to illegal streaming options out of frustration, with pirated streams of UFC events growing significantly. While UFC is fighting against these illegal broadcasts, it seems that their pricing structure is driving away paying customers. What many fans find most frustrating is the lack of communication between UFC brass and their audience. There's a sense that Dana White and the executives of UFC are completely out of touch with their fan base. While UFC continues to grow globally and attract new fans, the longtime supporters who helped build the brand feel abandoned. UFC is more than just a sport, it's a community, and when that community feels ignored, it leads to outrage. This disconnection is why many MMA fans are questioning the direction the UFC is heading. Is it becoming too much of a corporate machine? Are the people who helped make the UFC what it is today simply disposable in the eyes of those who run it? As the UFC shifts toward a more corporate and mainstream model, one thing is becoming clear. The soul of the sport is at risk of being lost. Dana White and the UFC are no longer just a part of the MMA community, they're the driving force behind it. And while growth and success are important, maintaining a connection to the fighters and fans that helped build the organization is critical for the UFC's long-term sustainability. In recent years, the UFC has become less of an underdog story and more of a corporate empire, with decisions being driven by profit rather than the spirit of the sport. Fans and fighters alike are beginning to notice the shift, and it has many questioning whether the growth is worth the cost. Many have pointed out that Dana White's attitude toward the MMA community isn't helping matters. White has always been known for his combative, no-nonsense persona. He's made a name for himself by calling out critics, dismissing fighters who leave the promotion, and taking a hard stance on issues. But in this case, it seems his brashness may have gone too far. Fans who once adored Dana White for his role in growing the UFC now see him as part of the problem. His responses to complaints about pricing, often dismissive and combative, have only fueled the fire of anger among the community. White seems to believe that the UFC can do no wrong and that fans and fighters should simply accept whatever the company dishes out. However, it's this very mentality that's causing so much frustration within the MMA world. With all this anger and frustration, is there any hope for change? Some fans are hoping that the outcry will force the UFC to reassess their pricing strategy. Should UFC reconsider its pricing structure? Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more MMA updates and discussions.